Welcome back to Ferocious Education. This is Zed. Today we're talking about ATOMERA. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. I'll cover everything you need to know from A to Z, presentations, news, technical analysis, etc. So ATOMERA. Coming on with the latest things, the presentation first, and then we're going to go through news, etc. So starting off here in the presentation, we see that ATOMERA has multiple investment overviews. First one is the mere silicon technology MST, which is the thin film used to enhance semiconductors. Now, results in higher performance, lower power, and lower costs for ICUs. Current capital light IP and technology licensing businesses, robust and growing patent portfolio. Engaged with 50% of world's top semiconductors makers, licensed with 4 companies including recent GDA, and strong team to commercialize technology. A better way for industry research and development, ATOMERA goes on for targeted innovation at an expensive and a lower risk. Now, MST technology, how it differs from a standard silicon transistor, is the MST silicon atomic structure, and as well causing an increased horizontal current flow and vertical flow in comparison to a limited horizontal flow and excessive vertical leakage. So this would result in improved efficacy and efficiency, higher transistor performance, lower power consumption, better reliability, lower cost, reduced die size, improved yield, same benefit as a node shrink. And so you're getting to see here that patent portfolio has 17% increase year over year. So they have currently 269 patents granted and pending, which is good to know. And you have integrated device manufacturing with bigger names such as Samsung, Toshiba, Intel, and the list goes on. Now for foundry and fabless, you do have as well, and tool suppliers, they do have different names around. Now, customer engagement and revenue model. So their model here has around 6 phases. Phase 1, which is planning. Phase 2, setup. Phase 3, integration. Phase 4, installation. Phase 5, qualification. And 6, production. And there's engineering services fees, so MS deposition on customer wafers, and then integration of consulting. Now, license fee, integration licensing, manufacturing licensing, and distribution licenses. So going on for joint development agreements and royalties later on. And we see that they do have one of the newer customers going on phase 4, and I'll do talk about that for the first time ever in the first quarter 2021. We're looking into a phase 4 customer, which means they are at installation level going on towards qualification and production later on. Currently, they have 19 customers and 25 engagements working with 50% of the world top semiconductors makers. And in terms of annual revenue potential, you're looking at $13 million in annual revenue potential, for example, 2, where you have leading foundry, 28 fab compared to worldwide average fab. You're looking at 58 million annual revenue potential. Moving on as well, you get to see the improvements, etc., some numbers, but we're going to look into one of the important things for me, the financials. So in terms of financials, they are pre-revenue, as we get to see, with the exception to quarter 1 2020, small revenue in there, but generally they are almost no revenue in their quarters. And a big reason of that is that they are more often research development part, and they don't have a customer in phase 6 yet. They only have one just recently in phase 4. Current net loss per quarter revolves around 3 million or so, 3.5 I would say to 4. And so that leaves them, I would say, a few quarters around, at least for the next year, for their cash. Current total debt, I'll go through that in a little, but basically as a summary, high margins, recurring revenue financial model, strong technology, patent positions, and balance sheet. Now, traction with many top industry players, growing licenses based on ramping commercial license revenues. And we're going to move on now towards the latest news. They did complete a $25 million at the market equity back in January. They also announced off the MST CAD for modeling semiconductors device improvements with MST back in December 7th. And also we're going back in terms of financial highlights for 2020. Executed joint development agreement with a market-leading semiconductor company, strengthened balance sheet by completing a $25 million at the market equity offering, and announced the availability of MST CAD V10 for modeling semiconductors, device improvements for MST, and as well their first customer to enter phase 4. And we can move on now towards institutional buyers, etc. SEC filing. And if you'd like to see more contents like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and the bell notification button. If you'd like to join our server, it's in the description below. You're totally free. There's no commitments there. Now, Material Technologies helps advance Moore's Law. This was an actual interesting publication back on September 23rd. And electric chips are typically made from 3 different types of materials: metals, insulators, and semiconductors. Recently, Intel announced their new Tiger Lake CPU highlights 2 materials advances outside of the transistor. First, they improved the conducting metal stack, which is a metal interconnect between various layers of transistor on the ground floor. Using material engineering, and Intel improved the resistance of the metal stack by depositing improved thin insulators, dielectric barriers, which help to shorten the metal path and so reduce the overall resistance. Next, they worked on the changes to improve their dielectric components such as capacitors in the top layer of the metal stack. It is common to create a metal insulator metal or MIM capacitor to realize these vital passive components. Now, in contrast to Intel technology, ATOMERA's MST is a semiconductor material technology, typically used to improve the performance of transistors. All of these material innovations help the industry to keep moving forward to achieve cost-effective and higher performance and lower power solutions for tomorrow's electronics. And we move on towards the vote that is happening. This is on May 6th. Nothing out of the box that we're seeing on there. Although in January 2021, they entered with JDA with a leading semiconductors provider for integration of our most MST technology into their manufacturing process. We already know that. But in terms of their total assets, we see previously talked about the cash. Current assets, you're looking closer to 40 million, although total liabilities, you're looking somewhere around 2 million. So they definitely have enough to pay off their debt easily. Third quarter highlights previously was commenced MST deposition on 300 mm wafers on a new EPI tool, achieved further gains on MST and SP's industry-leading performance, and bolstered balance sheet with proceeds of at the market equity that is back on October 29, 2020. Institutional buyers. We do have a few. This one is a BlackRock backed. So by around February, they did add around 5%. Apple Peter added around 4%. So 2021 seems to be somewhat active. Institutions are more adding than dumping on shares. That's a good thing. I only see one red, which means depositing of shares, but 2021 looks to be very interesting for institutions for this company. And we can move on now towards insiders, and we don't see much here, so we can move on towards technical analysis. The technical analysis on this really looks interesting, not specifically on a one-day perspective, but as we move on towards the moving averages, supports, and resistances. However, the 10 SMA is above the 30 EMA, and this gap is between 25.54 and 24.35. That is the trading action zone where most positive reversals occur. Now, in terms of the other indicators, you're looking at momentum that is positive, although MACD looks like it's attempting to go towards the negative side. Now, that is not always an indication of a negative reversal, but it's more of an accumulation / sloppy move. The ADX is lower than 20, and this supports more of an accumulation / sloppy move. Now, on the moving average bands, you're looking at this one is trading on the top 27.22, in the middle 24.74, and in the bottom 22.27. This just indicates that within the next probably couple of days, it will probably propagate between these lines. Stochastic fast and stochastic slow are both not showing much of a move. However, Fibonacci resistance levels and support levels are interesting. You're looking at a support level at 22.93, below there 17.22. Current resistance level are 27.55, 32.17, 38.74, and 47.12. And if we were to go ahead in terms of just price line action, we're seeing significant support levels sitting currently at the 23.69. Below there, you're looking down to 22.04, 20.70, and then you start diving a little bit down below towards 12.76, and you start seeing that the price point really does start dropping lower, 8.56, and you're going down to 5.81, and then down to 2.62. Now, significant resistance levels, you're looking at this one here. There's a few. So one here that is very important is 24.93. Above there, you're looking into 26.58, and then 27.87. You're looking into 28.18, 32.62, 35.09, and then we start jumping up a little bit to the 40s. And it comes to the question to Ed, what do you think about this one? Well, they are a massive company for one that doesn't do much revenue. So it's quite interesting because that means the price over sales doesn't even exist really, unless you count the very pennies they made in the first quarter 2020 as revenue, but that's not fair. Price over book, it's a little bit overvalued, but so is a lot of the companies in the market. So relatively, it's better to go with a company that has a plan rather than not. It's quite of an interesting one and has potential. Probably won't go bankrupt in any time soon, and I see this one to be one of the successful ones, although it's quite interesting in terms of seeing the length and the return on these phases. Are we talking about phase 1 stays around 6 months, phase 2 stays around another 6 months, and it takes 10 years to get one customer? It would be quite interesting, and with a lot of these chips moving a lot faster in terms of production and innovation, it would be quite interesting to see the timeline between each of these phases and how they actually resemble once we get to phase 6. So there's still time to go, but I definitely think that this one has something. What do you think about the sticker? Make sure to mention down in the comments below. Share, subscribe, and like. Have a wonderful day. And a quick thing here, if you've stayed this long in the video, I would love to invite you to my Discord server. It's in the description below. It's totally free. What we do here is sometimes pick long-term swings, long-term positions, swings, etc. We do scalps as well during the day. It's totally free. It's more of just trade ideas in general. And we also trade together here in Trading Floor. We have also chats during the week to discuss our trading sessions, strategies, etc. Feel free to join us. There's no obligations there, and have a wonderful day.